On air.
On.
You do realize that if you put it on and then point it that way, it doesn't do you any good.
It's on.
That's annoying. It's now on the recording.
I know.
The people that, oh, look, somebody just went live. Oh, Town of Brentwood.
Heard some. All right, so we're calling to order the Municipal Complex Research Committee's March 18th meeting. We have I guess we're not voting on anything, so we do have sufficient membership. So the first item on the agenda was to review and approve and discuss, if need be, the meeting minutes of the 7th January and 4th of February.
Before you go too far, is why I'm here. I'd asked. You turn on your mic, sir?
Just the big button.
The button.
And just remember 8 inches. You should be within 8 inches of your mic for it to pick you up correctly. Okay, I'm Eric Trump. I was had asked to join the committee.
I did email you.
You did?
Yeah, okay.
And just basically introduce myself to everybody. I was looking to be on the committee. That's why I'm sitting here.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
It's interested to see what's going on. Just for a little background in the town, I was on the building committee for the school. As a matter of fact, I chose the chairman of that committee when they put the addition on the school. So I have, some experience with going with that. And prior to that, I was the fire protection engineer over at Seabrook Station. That for a little over 30 years over there.
Great.
And retired now. So
Welcome.
I'm here and.
We appreciate you being here. Does this time frame work for you, generally?
Being retired, it works wonderful.
Perfect.
It's not too early. I don't have to hear an alarm, so it works very nice.
I think we all feel the same way.
Well, thanks for joining the committee.
I don't know everybody. If
Yeah, we'll go around just to, Eric Kelly, I live over on Peabody Drive. I've volunteered for the committee back in 2018-ish
I saw your name
timeframe.
and some stuff. You've been here a lot.
So I've kicked around since the early beginnings, and now I'm serving as the interim chair.
It's nice that you think it's interim.
So cute.
I keep saying it.
So cute.
I walk in, everyone starts laughing.
Well, we won't tell you.
All right, we'll go.
Yeah, I'm Letty Bedard. I am on this committee as a resident. I think I've been on for 2 years now. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about right.
Mark Kennedy, resident of Brentwood and land use administrator for Brentwood.
I'm Justin Doty, the chief of police.
Jared Ward, I'm our resident.
I started the whole thing.
Yeah.
Jimmy showed selectman.
Fire chief extraordinaire.
All right, so, well, Eric, glad to have you on board.
Is it Eric with a K or a C?
C, E-R-I-C.
Oh, good, another Eric with a C.
Doesn't happen very often.
So the first item on the agenda was to consider the minutes from January 7th and February 4th. I know some of the members were not on at the 7th. I think it would actually just be this end of the table. I reviewed them. I didn't have any issues with them.
They look good.
But I have a motion just to accept the January 7th minutes.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Second.
Yes.
First,
Aye.
second.
Aye.
All right, now moving on to February 4th. Jim, you were here. Joe, you were here. And then Eric, you were not. Just, that was a shorter meeting, really focused on prepping for the warrant article and next steps with going out for qualifications for design support. I didn't have any issues with the minutes myself.
I'll move them.
Moved to accept. Second,
I'll second. Am I allowed to?
Yeah,
yeah.
you're on the committee.
You took the notes.
I take the notes.
All right, all in favor of accepting the February 4th minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Minutes trivia is done. Chief, would you mind just giving an update on annual town meeting? Just status of the article and then any discussion that came up.
Sure. So we put the article forth for 25 grand in the, I'll call it the municipal building fund that passed. So I don't know the exact total amount. Lily, do you have that available of what's in that fund?
No.
But there was discussion as
Like
to just
135 or
plus the
140.
25. I think it was 140. So I think we're like 160, 170 right now.
Yep.
Discussion pretty much revolved around what that money is going to be used for. Now believing that we have the adequate funds based off previous talks to start moving forward with getting RFQs and hopefully getting some drawings, getting some feasibility studies, getting everything just to get this project rolling.
So
But
that
it's,
next year.
yeah, it seemed like the public that was at the meeting, at town meeting, seemed to generally be in favor of this project, so. And then we did speak of, Eric, just to kind of fill you in, we're tossing around a few different ideas. So whether or not we do a standalone PD facility, a PD facility that can have the town hall added on to, build out a combined facility like we have now. So kind of presenting the public with options to see like what they think is going to be best, whether they, let them choose sort of thing.
Well, that's good that there was no opposition to the adding more funds. I think we talked last time about how the amount that we had set aside, which I didn't write down what the value of the CRF was before the 25, but I think that was also conditional on if we had an invoice from Weston and Sampson.
I don't think we have an invoice from them. I know we keep talking about it, but
Yeah, but-
as far as I know, we haven't ever received an invoice.
But we can confirm that just for the minutes for next is what the value of the CRF is now
Mhm.
with the additional 25. So the other action item for the committee coming out of February 4th was to look over the draft RFQ that I put together in January. Really just wanted to kind of have a discussion about the objectives and scope for that, like if we want to identify some or all of the alternatives that might become the scope of work. We do not need to explicitly define the scope for the future designer. It's more of it's a quals-based selection, so we're not getting a price proposal that comes with this. It's more like, tell us why we should hire you. We can identify things that they might want to take into consideration. So standalone PD, a new facility that is expandable to do multiple form and function, but it starts as a PD with room either planned internally or external site planning for another municipal building.
Or renovating this.
And looking at just the general cost that renovating this building would be, just as a comparative. Although I think that piece we've kind of nailed down a little bit with KIP, just what it would be, and I think we've exhausted the modifications downstairs pretty much at this point.
I mean, at least for our uses, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
For non-PD uses, I guess there might be some things. And then if there's any other alternatives to that over at the rec that we want the future designer to help develop. But essentially we had kind of homed in on PD alone, PD with interior space to build out later, or PD with site space for future build out.
Now, has the rec been determined that the property over there is a location you're looking to put this facility, whatever it may be?
Right now, yes. That's the target site. We had looked at behind the fire department, kind of like where kind of in the wood line behind next to the training tower. Not that you couldn't put it there, but it's definitely not ideal from an access standpoint, and also just the site work that would have to get done to build it into the hill. Having it at the rec would kind of a win-win opportunity to address parking and access over there and make more of a complex as opposed opposed to it being kind of off by itself in the back of the, and having to cut through ways and everything. It just didn't seem, you could do it, but it just didn't seem as attractive. So within the RFQ, we kind of lay out just some general parameters. We're basically looking for professional design firms that have experience in the municipal market. PDs explicitly would be as an added benefit. And then they can help guide this committee and the town at large to look at those different alternatives, put a price to them so that when we go to town meeting for construction monies, it would be, there's option A, B, C, and if there's other permutations, we can add that in. And then we put the decision in the voters' hands, and they can say which one passes favor. So the committee's role, Eric, is not to recommend one of the alternatives. It's basically to give all the information to the voters so that they can make a decision on what makes the most sense at that point.
We don't want as a group to sort of say this would, maybe, option B would be the best. We don't want to recommend anything.
I'm not against a recommendation by any means. As a committee, I mean, I'm sure realistically that's gonna be what comes out anyways. Say just for example, if the recommendation is, it's most cost effective to do a combined facility, I don't see why we can't say that, but it's still ultimately allowing the voters to say, you know what,
Sure.
it's really not in our checkbooks this year, so we're just gonna cut it down to a standalone, or what have you, or if it's gonna cost a PD this much, why not just add the town hall for only this much more, if that's what it comes down to.
Or would we take off your hat? Would this committee would this committee have the select board make that recommendation?
That's a good question. I don't see why not. Because ultimately the committee would just be, or the select
Maybe
board.
advisory.
Yeah.
We're just advising. the select
Exactly,
board.
yeah. So the select board would just be kind of announcing what our findings are.
Would the select board want to make a recommendation like that, or let the committee do it? We ended up, what I'm asking is, when we did the school, they wanted the building committee to make the recommendation.
I think we could.
I mean, we could always ask the board
Yeah.
and see if they're.
It was kind of like, this is what, you were our committee, the committee is making the presentation,
Yeah.
and not being filtered through somebody else.
I can't imagine our board is going to get super possessive about it, and they're probably going to revert a lot back to the committee, I would think. But
I would think.
yeah,
Yeah, well, it just became kind of how it was presented. It
Yeah.
wasn't the,
Yeah.
and
It's the
I
whole
kind of
purpose
wish it
of
was
this
the other way.
exactly.
'Cause
Yeah.
I kind of wish it was the other way, because I did a lot of the presentation.
What I'm hearing is that you're
I wasn't-
experienced.
I wasn't all that
and
comfortable
We're
standing
gonna
in
tap
front of
you
yeah.
next March.
I got that way, but it wasn't that way when I started. One other question I have, are the information you're talking about, is that online? Is there a committee
Yep,
webpage or
yep.
something?
On the town website there is. I think all the minutes except for the ones that we just approved are there.
Okay, it's on the town website.
Town
yeah.
website.
The only thing, Liz had sent me the link for the assessment that was done years
I
ago.
think that's the old
It's-
assessment.
Yeah.
It's an old one.
Yeah, there's a new one.
Yeah. That's like draft one of.
That's the only thing I had. I had to look at
Yeah.
that thing.
We had gotten an assessment too from Norwich, right?
Yep.
Norwich University.
That looks like the Norwich one from.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the Norwich one or not, but
No, that was, I forget who it was.
that one was the Norwich one was like a binder, and that
Anthem Planning.
yeah.
Oh, okay, that one
So
preceded
Norwich provided
It's an old one.
yeah provided a lot of good ideas. That was pre-COVID. The biggest issue we ran into was it was pre-COVID prices. A lot of obviously inflation has really taken a toll on all those.
Okay.
So that's been a tough selling point for a lot of people. Oh, let's go back to Norwich today. But Norwich also had like an indoor shooting range and stuff like that, which I do not want to maintain. So
Especially when you have SIG right down the street.
right, SIG or we have options
Yeah.
that we're working
You
on
get a
too.
shooting range, you get all the medical lead tests.
Yeah, the lead
The
test, the
ventilation
filters, it's
That's
Oh,
awful.
yeah.
pretty intense.
That's
I was involved when they put the range together at Civic Station.
yeah.
Liz is not gonna be.
So we've done a couple different iterations, Eric, like where we've benefited the original one from Anthem. We spent a little bit of money, and then Norwich, because it was a student capstone project, we were able to get that done pro bono, just as like a
That
student
one I was
project.
aware of, that's,
And then most recently, we had an updated version of that, looking at the rec site with a professional architect who was just coming up with some concepts and costs. The committee wasn't in agreement with the costs that were developed because they were just
Out of control.
I heard a gasp at town meeting.
not grounded in
not the real-
realistic unit prices of construction. But the floor plans and the space needs assessment, that stuff is valid. It's just the construction
Right.
costs were, orders of magnitude higher than think is relevant to what we're doing. So now the point would be to bring in a designer who can evaluate all the alternatives we want to throw at them, price them, come up with some preliminary plans, renderings, and things like that, so that we have a package to present this time next year. And then we can chart the course forward with the idea that it would become a design build, so that they would help advise to go to the next step, where we could bring in someone similar to Northampton, and you could just basically put it out there. We're going to work with a general contractor, designer, and just actually get the facility built.
So just to confirm, we kind of want to keep it all under one company, right? Design, build, architect, everything, one-stop shop instead of bringing in.
So the professional services is really just to get us to the launching point for an RFP for a design build. So that way we keep the costs as low, and we're not going full design, then going out to bid. That also allows for value engineering and kind of working with the contractor to kind of make sure everything works out, and you get a guaranteed maximum price.
And the other thing Letty and I had spoken about is the company that built Northampton. Kind of a selling point for me is the fact that they provided them with pretty much an all-in price that they would not exceed. So, they did the classic 10% just in case something goes over budget, but they were able to provide that concrete number that they would not go over.
Who built that? Was that VC?
Do you know who?
I don't remember.
I
Yeah,
don't remember off the top of my
maybe.
head.
That sounds right, but that also just.
VC
isn't-
did the firehouse.
Oh,
Yeah, that name doesn't ring a bell right now.
Yeah, I can't remember who did it, but
I mean, I wouldn't hate going to tour Northampton.
I haven't seen it yet. So
We should do that.
yeah.
I think the other stuff that we had coming down the pike just to support the overall effort was getting an updated appraisal of this building.
Yeah.
That was independent of going forward with the RFQ, but I don't know if that's
I
something.
might have it.
And then eventually getting the committee to go visit something as a comparable
Yeah.
as part of the selection process, so we can go, whether it's Northampton. I don't think Lee's is that old in the grand scheme of things.
Lee, I think was 04.
Is that really wow?
Yeah.
Barrington.
Barrington did a town hall.
Town
Farmington, we did that one in 17. And that was growing. So that's a police fire station. So that's an option too.
Yeah, we can find something just to go.
I know Guilford has a combined police town hall. It's I believe the police station was added on to the town hall.
Mhm.
So the town hall is an older building, but it's a concept, conceptual design almost.
It's across the border, but I believe Merrimack, Mass was an option, 'cause that one was.
I
close to
heard
being nailed.
Merrimack Mass did a lot of things right in the PD. Just simple things like, putting your electrical outlets midway up the wall. That way, when you have a desk up there, you're not running a bunch of cords down. Like, it's right there. You're not dinging walls and stuff. So that would be a good one to go look at.
Because I'm late to the game here, and I apologize for going backwards, but the adding on to or combining somehow to our existing fire station is not an option. Is that?
Yes.
I believe the issue became, that was obviously one of the original plans.
Right.
And Chief, maybe you can speak to it a little more. But I think the way the building is constructed now is it would be very difficult to add on to and still have, you know, a operational real estate operational
Yeah.
firehouse
Okay, I
with
just.
setbacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the residential side of the house is where you could add on to, and you can't all of a sudden take away windows and natural daylight and everything. You'd have to like make a breezeway, and then you end up with the entire building taking the parking lot. We actually had, this was a prior iteration in Norwich, we actually worked with Keene State. They had a design program, and some of them actually started looking just from a concept how you could add on to that building, and it was loss of function and occupancy was a big concern, not to mention the whole building was going to take that.
Putting it out back, the driveway was the big thing. We could have, when we designed that, we tried to leave room, and however, though, the room has been taken up by the solar panels.
Yeah.
If we could have gone towards 125, if you took the solar panels out, you could still add on. But we just,
Isn't that still within the setback though?
And then we had an issue with the 125 setback was
There's a setback
was a
too.
rather big space constraint. Like the array can be in it, but you
Yeah.
couldn't put like permanent structure in
Right.
the building.
Right. Apologize for wearing glasses. I scratched my cornea.
That's true.
Jeez.
Chief, have you sat down yet and done any kind of designs or what you need in the building? How
Mhm.
big?
We have prior to, we did some feasibility studies and stuff like that. We did that design work with Weston and Sampson where we got that astronomical number. We've done some, Letty and I, literally, she's made some layouts and stuff like that. So we have, I would say, like a foundation as to what to work towards and how, what to improve on and kind of build upon.
You know, one thing we did, you guys are probably a lot different than fire, but we did a program where you took every building and you gave it a rating of, say, 1 to 5 on where it needed to be in the building, like the chief's office. Does the chief's office have to be up front, on the side, or back? You know, for us, it was like, does the kitchen need to be next to the apparatus?
Hmm.
Not really. Bunk rooms, yeah. Training room, yeah. Certain rooms could be further away. Now, I
Sure.
don't know how much that, really is for you guys or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like pretty much the only limiting thing we have is we want Katie's office right at the front door.
Yeah.
You know, because she's the first point of contact. I work closely with Katie, so having my office close to her office makes sense. Having the records room close to her, you know, it's just little things. So
Gives you a stat, so you know where to.
yeah, exactly. And then the big thing we want is like, you know, a fitness room because we have to do a 3-year PT test. So allowing the officers a place that way they can actually prepare for a 3-year PT test would be, you know, realistically, if the state requires it, then we should require them to have a place to work out.
So one of the things we had kind of set for ourselves, actually, Letty, before I jump in, was there something on the appraisal?
Yes, it's not done though.
Okay.
But it is in the works.
It's in the works.
Yep.
So Eric, just to fill you in, one of the ideas that were tossed around, and Jim, I'm not sure if you're aware, was potentially selling this building to help, if it was going to be a combined building, to help offset some of those costs of adding a town hall. You know, I think there was a number valuing this building at $1 million to add a town hall. It would kind of be a wash. So again, an idea that was thrown around. So just to cover all those bases too.
So going back to the RFQ, and Jim, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it because you just come on board, but I distributed this out in January, and Eric, you haven't had a chance to look at it yet either, and we can get reshared via email. Really what we're trying to do is lay out a very simple, kind of concise request for qualification. So interested designers can come and make their case to work with the town. We've laid out a couple evaluation criteria, really looking at their experience. So when you do a request for qualifications, you're not doing it based. You can include price or you cannot. We were choosing not to. It's more like, tell us your qualifications. Why should we choose you? What's your management approach? Give us client references so that we can call, you know, town XYZ and make sure they enjoyed the experience working with you, and you're getting a good, consultant to work with. And we were looking at trying to nail down what we wanted to consider both minimum criteria, and then we usually try and put it into buckets of highly advantageous, not advantageous. So you can discern one firm from another. So that was kind of where we were kind of trying to figure out if anyone had any feedback on how we wanted to approach that, if there was certain minimum criteria, really thinking more about having a minimum number of police facilities under your project references, so that we were getting someone who knows that that's not just building a traditional stick-built building. There's specialized things. And then just general municipal experience, so that we're getting someone who knows who navigated that.
Are there state RSAs that cover the construction of a police building?
State RSAs, I'm not sure. There are federal standards for like CGIS information and stuff like that. So, we have to have like our servers need to be appropriately locked up. Our records need to have a proper area, doors in and out, obviously security, video.
I know there's life safety code requirements. And
Yeah.
stuff, and the other question I've got in my mind is, and I'm not sure how it affects municipal buildings, but does the state require sprinkler systems in most buildings? And if so, is this building gonna be required to be sprinkled?
I'm assuming so.
I would
Yeah.
assume.
It's a municipal building.
Could be one of the first ones in town. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the firehouse is sprinkled.
It is. I didn't even realize that. Okay.
Probably the nursing home.
Good place for it.
Yeah, I would think
There's
that counts
lots-
buildings, sir.
There's lots of everything on.
Yeah.
Certainly not the first.
Yeah.
The houses over on Three Ponds are all sprinkled in the front half
That's right. They could throw in water over it.
Oh well.
of the county.
Are there any other standard? I mean, obviously we have just general building code, but from the police side,
Yeah, I
it's
mean-
just federal.
Yeah, that's as far as I know. The other thing that I would look into for grant purposes would be EOC standards, so like Emergency Operations Center for FEMA grants and stuff like that.
I was just gonna bring that up. That was something we ran into with the fire station that got kind of screwy, that
Yeah.
we don't really have a true secondary EOC.
Yeah. So the goal would be to hope that this building would either serve as the secondary or the primary, whichever.
And they bring in all kinds of extra special codes.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
are costly.
Yes. Which
Mostly
is
on like IT and communications.
That and
probably just
fireproofing, bulletproof glass, things like that. And that room, say this was the room,
yeah.
which we didn't meet all those.
Yeah, which that's where hopefully the grants would help us,
Right.
because obviously if the grants are going to say no and it's that much more money, then we're not, probably not going to be done.
Is there money, do you know, still available from Saybrook that was way back when? I don't know if that's still,
You'd have to talk with, Rich, is it? Whether or not he still gets some, but I don't know if there's any big money.
I wonder if the state would help us at all, because we are so close to their new facility and the halfway house, so to speak, and all that. I wonder if there's something that we could look into for that as well, because clearly you would be a strong, go-to for that. right?
Yeah.
If something happens.
I mean, that's been a question that I've had too, because of that issue. I mean, I don't even know if there's a walk away from that facility. I don't know if they're putting deputies in there 24/7, if the jail guards are doing it, if they're going to expect us to do it. I think it would probably behoove us to potentially touch base with county commissioners, who can then maybe bring it to the delegation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a thought that I've had.
Yep.
I'm willing to let people have more time with the RFQ. I wasn't envisioning my first draft as being the final draft
Why not?
I trust you.
because I did it over Christmas break.
None of us know what any of that means.
So I can give it another rinse to kind of put it in, just refresh it for the passage of 3 months. And maybe I think now I would probably tweak it more into the advantageous, I'll call it qualitative rather than quantitative scoring.
Mhm.
But that's just for my own liking. makes it.
Who would ultimately approve us publishing this? Select board?
That was one other open item we had, just because with the change in town admin, we also didn't know
Yeah.
standard format contracts, things like, because usually you put like a sample contract in
There's,
the back of the package.
that doesn't exist.
Um,
I can tell you definitively, there is no sample or
No, no,
standard
okay.
anything for the town.
So, I mean, Eric, if you're comfortable doing it, I would say if you could, I've read through it. I mean, I don't know what I'm necessarily looking or adding or taking away. I would say maybe just the section under the objective where you have including new police department facility, new town hall facility, and a joint police department town hall. I would
Yeah.
do police department facility, police with a build out, and then a joint.
Or just multiple choices.
Yeah, just multiple choices.
Yeah, we don't, I mean, we're not committed to the, because it's, we're saying anticipated, because
Yeah.
then, so when the way the process goes, we'll get all the submissions, we get to score them and then interview a short list. I will say this, our industry is swamped right now, so I think, we'll have to probably do a little bit of outreach to make sure people know it's available for, solicitation, just because people are kind of, I think having a shorter, more condensed conceptual study might yield more responses than if we were trying to hire someone to go start a design and carry it all the way forward, just because there's not a lot of slack in the professional services industry right now.
Get rid of that.
Blaring.
Yeah. And then we'd get it to interview, hopefully, minimum of 2. And then we'd make a recommendation to a board, and then you start negotiating the scope. And we could sit down with them and be like, this is what we want. I sit, and then we say yes.
How long is this gonna take
To do a study?
to, yes?
So I would say usually if we were to say put this out publicly, you'd leave it out for at least 30 to 45 days, just to make sure you have time to generate interest. So let's just say, being reasonable, let's just say it was available on May 1st, and we'd be awarding around the 4th of July-ish timeframe.
But then how long would it take to actually get a result from whoever we pick?
3 to 6 months, depending on how much we put in front of them.
I think we need to get this out there now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree
So,
with that. I would personally like to be able, then it's kind of a stretch, but if there's a select board meeting Tuesday, April 1st, I'd like to see if the select board allow us to publish it then.
I think the proper procedure would be for us to vote on it. Someone would make a motion, push that forward. Someone would second that motion, and then we'd vote on it. And then we can take that to the select board.
So
What motion are you making?
the
Mark?
motion,
I'm making a motion that we accept that with Chief's edits.
Or your edit?
yeah,
He's,
we'll have one round of edits, and then we would send it to the select board for, we'd get authorization to release it through the town administrator on, say the meeting on the 1st?
Well, we have meetings every Tuesday. But
Well,
if-
it's gonna
if-
go to bi-weekly soon, isn't it?
But if all you need is the town administrator, she can approve that whenever.
I guess, do we need select board approval to release an RFP? Or,
I guess the select board could tonight, if it came up, because it will. We could give her the authority to release it on our behalf.
Are you willing to bring it up tonight?
If that-
Jim said that he's on the select
Or,
board.
yeah, I mean, Jim, you could bring it up tonight.
If we, if that's all we need, and that's just more of a pro forma, like, and then we finalize the edits.
I think so, because I don't,
Do we want to finalize the edits first before we bring it to the board? Do we
no,
wanna
we're
get it-
saying that, the board would give Andrea permission to actually post it.
So that way, when when it does get approved by us,
Because
she could post it.
We're gonna go to every other week in April.
So so the motion would be to seek board authorization to release the RFQ through town administrator
Mhm.
when it's,
After this committee decides it's ready?
Okay.
Question mark? Or is Mark suggesting that we think it's ready?
I would just like to put it more in, I'll call it qualitative
Yeah.
scoring rather than quantitative scoring.
I would say time is of the essence. We need to get this all finalized and get it into the hands of the voters in a timely fashion
Mm.
to where they can make an informed decision of how they want to vote.
Well, and will this come with an approximate price per square foot? Or no?
That's what the outcome.
Okay, because that is also going to be important, because that might dictate which options are available or not.
I think that's gonna put it into an easily digestible quantitative figure that people can focus in on and understand the ramifications of how they're voting,
Mm-hmm.
is with the square foot price.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your square foot prices for the building, what about any site work, parking lot work, is that,
Yeah.
how's that gonna be?
We would include that too.
So it's more than just the square footage.
Will that be included in the square footage price?
Usually you would, well, you usually give it in both. You kind of take the total project cost and do it by a square footage, but then you also have discipline. So like you'd have your site civil work would be X thousands, but you always usually do normalize everything back to the price per square foot, even the yard spaces, obviously. It's not.
Square footage.
I just want to make sure that we can break it down into
Yeah.
an easily digestible, here are the facts, you make a decision.
Yeah.
So I will second your motion, Mark.
So the motion was to seek authorization for the town administrator to release the RFQ when ready, pending final revisions from the committee.
You want revisions or approval?
Revisions by the committee, and then I guess we're ready to release. And
Yeah.
just get it.
To have Andrew put it out.
And then we'll have to just do some outreach to some of the, I don't know where they broadcast their
Probably Municipal
procurements.
Association.
It's just probably through the NH.
Yeah.
But then,
Then we can throw it up on social media.
yeah, and I can provide
There is a
some
section on the
contacts.
website for it too.
There's a couple of firms that exhibit at the Municipal Association meeting in November that specialize in municipal architecture. We can pull the list from the most recent attendance and directly just notify them.
Yeah, once we have it, I mean, I can email blast all these people.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
All right, so I guess the chief and I will coordinate on revisions so that we can distribute them by email to the committee by next week.
And then look to hopefully get it posted, if you will, by the first week of April. So, ladies or Jim, one of you guys don't mind bringing it up tonight, just to get that select board approval, and then we can really get the ball rolling.
I think Jim's the select board rep. I heard
That's
that.
between you guys. That's not between
You
me.
replaced, so Jen used to be on here as the select board.
Yeah, I'll bring, yeah, not a problem.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mark, do you have thoughts on duration? I usually like at least 4 weeks because they have to prepare. Somebody's got to do it. But if you give them more time, they just delay and do it at the end. If we release first week of April, we'd be looking for submissions.
May.
Yeah, probably by May. Yeah, May 2nd.
Yeah.
Should we actually postpone it and release it on April 2nd so that people don't think it's a joke?
I mean, realistically, if we approve
could-
it on the first, Andrea's gonna.
Yeah, we
Not
just say,
next
we can
week,
say
till the
first week
Wednesday.
of April, so by the 4th, we'll issue it. Submission deadlines by May 2nd, and then we would be looking to issue notice of award by end of May. Yeah, by June 1st. That gives us time to interview, depending on the response.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we target at least a minimum of 2.
Mm-hmm.
If we got more, we could shortlist. We could cap our shortlist just so we don't spend too much time. So we'd have.
Are 2 gonna be enough for, if you get a price from somebody, say you only got 2 prices?
Like 3
I mean,
myself, but
3 would be great. I just can't. We can't guarantee we'll get 3 responses. There's no price part. It's more just like if we only get 1. I guess we'd have to decide whether we thought they were qualified to work with. But we're not choosing. We're not. There's no price component. So then we would use June to get.
Well, there's a price involved in what they're gonna charge to do the work.
Once we've selected them, you go
Yeah,
through
what
that.
I'm saying is, so you may need more than one. I think it'd be hard to sell just one person coming in and saying, you're gonna get the price to do the work.
there's no price selection for fall space. So we're picking who we want to work with, then negotiate. It's not comparing, somebody could tell you it's gonna be 10 grand to do this, and the other person would be like, no, it's 75,000. There could be apples and oranges. So
Well, you
we,
won't know that until you pick out, once you pick a person, you're not gonna know that the person you threw out would do it for 10 when the other one's gonna do it for 75, is all I'm saying.
but we also don't have a scope of work that they're pricing yet.
Do we get to kind of pick what we want them to do based on
Yep.
how much we want to spend?
Yeah, we can tell them we have a budget of X. Here's the scope we want. They could be like, you got too many alternatives. We can't evaluate 6 things for
Right.
$50,000.
Right, there's two ways of pricing something. You could do all the engineering work and then take all that engineering work to different people who build things and say, give me a price on this. Or you can find the engineers who will do the engineering work and give you a price on it. That's what we're trying
And
to
may
do.
or may not build it,
And they may or may not build it, yeah.
because some of them do and some of them don't, right?
But for them to give you a price, don't you need to tell them what you're building it out of? You building it out of brick or wood?
Yeah, we can do that with this. We could, when we say we award Acme Engineering, we could come in, get them in the room and be like, we want you to evaluate this. Come back with a scope that says we're gonna do that for X thousands of dollars. And we go, yep, that's the scope. They put it in a contract, select board signs it, and then they're off and running. And then there would be a workshop, ideally with the committee, and they'd go see the site and do all that, and then they'd be like, okay, they'd come back with questions. Do you want the Taj Mahal, or do you want, Town Hall?
But once they give you a price, how do they?
That's just iterations, things they bake into the price. It's like materials of construction. So they could be like, you can build it stick for X dollars per square, or you can be like, do you want masonry? That's that times whatever. So we can kind of tell them where we want to go, but it doesn't change their scope of work. It's just, oh yeah, if it's a masonry building, it's stick plus something.
It changes the overall price.
Yeah, changes the overall construction. Our bigger scope, want them to actually give us a plan and a cost for, so if it's PD only, PD with space above or side, whatever, it's not built out, and then PD with space on site for some other building of 4,000 square feet or whatever the number is, they can look at those, and then we'd have I think we just have to make sure we define the iterations we want them to go through, so it's not just like constantly rinse and repeat, like, oh, change this, change that. It's like, no.
Is there,
And that costs money.
Yeah.
not looking through, or just in being new in this whole thing, is there a wish list of, I want so many offices, so big office?
Yeah.
And that's all
Yeah,
it's
we've
spelled out.
we've talked about that before. Yeah, where we did, you did like a
Yeah, I did a quick one.
like a quick feasibility study for us and stuff like that. So kind of what, yeah,
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good idea on the needs assessment. I don't think
Yeah,
there's a lot. I mean, the opportunities to get efficiencies was if it was dual use and there was shared spaces that could both town hall and PD
Right.
could
Well,
use.
I'm just looking, what's the police station need? Move that through, then if you have a dual, what can you use combined?
Yeah, we
Yep.
have that.
You've got,
Precisely, right. You only need one kitchen.
We kind of,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's certain things that you can share with the expense on, which that's where the
like a large
affordability
meetings-
can
a large
come from.
meeting space is a great example, because
Yeah, we were looking at meeting rooms, conference rooms, things that were,
215.
so. But ideally being one structure, so the foundation is the same, whether it's got two
so
functions in
that's
it.
all in the webpage, if I could dig them in or something.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the primary action item is for select board members to present that tonight, and then
Mm-hmm.
the chief and I will do a revised version to distribute to the group next week. And then once we get the authorization tonight, plus that revised version, and everyone blesses via email that that looks acceptable to put out, then we'll coordinate with the TA to get it issued, and then we'll just have to do outreach through the chief for potential interested parties.
Chief, could I send, or do you have the needs study that we got from Weston and Sampson?
it might be downstairs on the server.
Could you just go through and like label the different spaces that they say that we need with like a 1, 2, 3, with 1 being absolutely, 2 being
Yep.
probably, and 3 being like that's excessive.
Could you distribute that needs study?
It's on the website actually.
Oh, it is. Thank you.
I think we chased it down.
Yeah,
Like
It's on the
December.
website. It's on the website.
January. Oh, yeah. So it was.
yeah. I haven't
It's
Yeah.
www.brentwoodnh.gov/new building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my God, I'm here now.
All right. Does anyone, that brings us just to close out with open discussion. We hit on the town hall appraisal. We talked, there might be some funding provisions, thinking bigger picture to construction. We confirmed there is no town standard contract to attach.
Would that be a grant that you could apply for?
I will do my best.
Does the county offer any grant writing support?
Getting
We
them to
had-
assist with
we-
anything.
No, is that a core function?
It's not a tree you wanna bark at.
Anybody got anything else going around the table?
Mm-mm.
Open?
Mm-mm.
All right.
And let Evers
So,
talk.
looking for a motion to close the
Yes.
meeting?
Motion.
But there was one more than that. And
Yeah.
Motion
Second.
to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 217.
Did you do the minutes?
I tried to take some notes.
Okay, perfect. I got sidetracked with a few things.
No.
There was one that I